Hello and welcome to Galactic Wisdom. Thank you very much for being here today. So people ask me a lot, they tell me a lot, prove it. Prove the things you're talking about. Prove that tall whites exist. Well, in today's show, I'm going to do some proving. Now, proof is different from giving evidence. And honestly, if we really look at it deeply, nothing that I can show you is proof for you because, well, it could be AI. I could have made it up. So absolutely 100% proving something, well, that's something you have to do for yourself by coming out and coming to my events. But what I can show you is that I'm not just somebody who sits in front of a camera and talks and shares beliefs with you. I go out into the field and I investigate and I talk to people and I talk to witnesses and I video those witnesses. And I go out at nighttime with video cameras and I try and talk to different beings and I video my experiences. And today I am going to share with you a lot of evidence for the existence of tall white aliens living in the desert outside of Las Vegas. And I've had to do this by uploading several different short videos. And so we're going to be stopping and starting a little bit. But in today's show, I am going to show you videos of eyewitnesses who have played as children with tall white children in their backyard in Nellis Air Force Base. I am going to show you videos of tall white vessels that I have taken while going out into the desert. I'm going to show you lots of evidence. And I'm just going to get started with this now. This is going to be a 4-minute video of evidence. And then afterwards, I'm going to talk to you about it. Enjoy.
Look at that there. 6 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
Hello.
Hello.
For 2 years in the 1960s, Charles James Hall was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base outside of Las Vegas. There he claims to have had many experiences with tall white aliens, one of whom was known as Range 4 Harry. Charles's experiences have been detailed in the documentary Walking with Tall Whites. In this video, I share my own research into tall whites, which culminates with the extraordinary experience of camping with tall whites. When I watched the documentary Walking with Tall Whites, the first time I watched it for 30 minutes, and I ended up stopping it and not carrying on. Not because it wasn't interesting or well made, but because it was just all one guy. This is one guy and his accounts. There's no photos, there's no proof. There's no even evidence other than just one guy talking. And I thought, well, this is interesting, but there is nothing to back it up. And so I left it alone for a while. And then maybe a year later, somebody in my Las Vegas group contacted me and said, hey, I just watched that documentary and I know what they're talking about. What was your father's name?
His full name was Shalom Weiner, Weiner. He went by Saul, S-O-L. Yes, apparently he joined the Army Air Corps in 39 or 40, and ended up stationed here at Nellis Air Force Base in 1963. And he would tell me stories of this Range 4 Harry and the children and the playground, because I remember I always wanted to go play with the children.
In the documentary, Charles talks about this being called Range 4 Harry. He seems to be like the leader of the tall whites, Range 4 Harry.
Yes, I remember him more as this like childhood story character, and it's funny, even my sister did too, because when her child was born, she's like, do you have any idea where Daddy used to get those Range 4 Harry stories? She was trying to find them for her child, as if they were some published books he was reading from, and I we couldn't find it then, and just in and thinking things, and then that documentary made things like flood back. It just started realizing this was actual stuff, and I do remember he was very insistent, like, to never forget Range for Harry. If you forget everything else I told you, so like he'd bring it up like later on in life sometime. You still remember those stories I tell you about Range for Harry?
Do you remember any of the stories?
Just that if we look real hard, we might find, he might come say hi. That I'm almost positive he said something about that, if we meet, that there's children that I might play with or something. We were out looking for them if we could find them. Like, I don't know. I need to work on trying to remember this better.
Do you think you ever did go out into the desert and look for Range for Harry or children out there?
Well, now that I'm thinking back on it, I'm thinking that was probably what we were doing. Now, and I'm trying to remember if he ever said like he ever met them or if he had heard of them and was hoping we could see them too.
So what we've got here is a guy, Charles James Hall, who came out a few years ago with a series of books and documentaries that detail his experiences when he worked in the U.S. Air Force, out in Nellis Air Force Base, Creech Air Force Bases, close to Las Vegas, his experiences with tall, white alien beings. And in his documentaries and books, there isn't a lot of supporting evidence. Other people don't come forwards and confirm what he's talking about. But I have some friends in Las Vegas whose fathers were stationed in the same place, in the US Air Force. And you have just heard from Misty, whose father was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base. And Misty recalls that when she was a child, her father used to tell her stories about Range for Harry. She thought it was like a children's character, but he would tell her these stories about Range for Harry, her and her sister. So there's two people with memories of this, and how important those stories were, and that she should never forget them. And the father would also take them out into the desert to watch for UFOs. And she said, when she was a kid, her father was in the Air Force, and he would take her out there into the desert, and they would sit on the hood of their car. I have to pause and think about that now. I should just speak English. They would sit on the bonnet of their car and look up into the sky and see all these UFOs. And I've got her on video describing this and the UFOs that she saw. So it must have been in the 70s when he would take you out?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Can you tell me what he used to do?
So we would go out in the desert and we would sky watch for UFOs. And we would see very cool light anomalies and different like things flying around.
And tell me what they looked like when you would see them.
So the ones that stand out as some of the coolest lights, I don't remember ever seeing like actual ships hovering in us. It was always light and stuff. And some of the most I remember, there was one almost the size of the moon up there that seemed to spin and just hover over us, where there were lots of little ones that would fly back and forth and come back to that big one, and then it would zip around the sky somewhere and come back, and they were all doing that, zipping around the sky and coming back to that big one. And during all of that, I would see these like spotlights on the desert ground. We're out there in complete darkness, no one around. And we didn't have like police helicopters back then. The Air Force may have had them, but it wasn't like common to see like police helicopters with spotlights back then at all. But that's what it reminded me of, is what that looks like when they have the searchlight going around the ground, but what stood out was there was never a beam of light. I would try to figure out as a child, this was my mind thought was to follow that beam of light to where it was coming from, but there was no beam. And that was the weird part. There was no beam, if that makes sense. There was just the light lighting up the desert floor.
Did you get the feeling that they knew you were there?
I know I used to always wish and think and pretend that I was a child. I know I was always, I remember being asked if my daddy would ask me, like, what would you do if they landed right here? And I'm like, I'd run up to them and go for a ride. Like, I want to go for a ride. And then at one time we brought friends with me. My friends were all, I'd run, I'm scared, I'd run. And I was like the only one that wanted to know, I'm running to them, I want to go for a ride. So yeah, I remember wanting to be their friend and wanting to believe that they knew I was there. I felt like they were there to see me as a child, but I don't know how real that was. I mean, it was just wishes but yeah, that's what I used to feel like. That I felt like it. I felt like they were looking for me. That's why I was trying to figure out which one was doing it, but there was no beam.
So that's interesting, because here we have Misty talking about, well, she was a child and so was her sister. They would be taken out there into the desert and they were looking for children. They were looking for tall white children to play with. And in fact, over the years, in my interactions with tall white beings, it is true that these tall white beings seem to be interested in our children and our children playing with their children. And I discovered another person in Las Vegas whose father was also in the US Air Force, and they actually lived on Creech Air Force Base, which is northwest of Las Vegas, a few miles. And her house used to be close to those ranges, the ranges where Range 4 Harry used to live. Her yard used to open up onto the back of, the back of her yard used to open up onto those ranges. And she remembers as a child playing with tall white children.
Hi, my name is Mercedes Roberts.
Fantastic. And you told me earlier on today that you feel that maybe you had an experience with tall white children when you were young.
Yes, I remember when I was about maybe 3-4 years old. We lived here in Indian Springs. My dad was in the Air Force. And I remember playing in our backyard, which was fenced off, but behind the fence was the desert. And my sister was a year younger than me. And I remember us being by ourselves, which was strange because my mother was very protective of us, but she was nowhere around. And I remember children, playing with children, but they didn't look like other children or dress like other children. And I also remember looking through I would have to say, they weren't binoculars, but they were some type of, like a viewfinder or something that you can look inside. And I remember seeing different images. Some images were familiar, like picnic table, the sunset, and then some images were more like alien, like the sky was purple, just different flashes. So I remember that. And
so your father was stationed at Nellis?
Yes, he was stationed in Nellis, and well, actually not Nellis. He was stationed at Nellis also, but he was stationed here when we lived in Indian Springs.
So this is Creech, is that right?
Yes.
So he was stationed at Creech?
Yes. I don't know if that's the name of it back then, but...
No, I don't think it was.
Yeah. But I remember the Thunderbirds. I remember that.
Yeah.
Really into the Thunderbirds.
So Creech is on the this highway. Creech is that side. Your house was also on that side of the highway?
I remember we lived on base. I'm not sure if it was on base or right across directly from base, because I was just a toddler then. But I do have pictures of us.
Goodbye.
Of us playing in the backyard, and I think that's where my memory, where I remember most because of some of the pictures.
So I recorded that after we had gone out and done a contact event a few years ago at nighttime. And I can only upload up to 200 megabytes of video at a time. So I'm going to move on to the next part of that interview right now.
But after looking at that documentary, I forget what his name is.
Charlie, I think. Wasn't it Charles or...
He was a weatherman, and he mentioned that there was this tool that the tall whites would use to erase your memory. So I don't know if the thing I'm thinking of might have been something similar to that. I'm not sure. But I do feel that we did have encounters with the tall whites when I lived in Indian Springs when I was a baby.
So you actually lived on the military base in Indian Springs, and your backyard opened up onto the military desert area.
Yes.
And that is where you played with children that didn't quite look human.
Right.
Do you remember how they did look?
I don't. I just remember there were children, and I remember my sister and us playing. And the strangest part to me was that my parents were nowhere around. That was strange, that we were in the backyard with our parents there.
Do you remember any details about those children at all?
No, that's very vague.
Okay.
But
do you remember what games or how you were playing with the children?
I remember playing chase, running around, and then looking in that whatever that thing was.
Yeah. So that belonged to the children?
Yeah, it wasn't ours.
And were the pictures that you were looking at, were they moving images or like a slideshow?
I remember it being more like a slideshow.
Okay. In March 2021, I set up a special contact event in a publicly accessible area of the desert outside of Nellis and Creech Air Force bases, with the hope of connecting with the tall white beings who live there. During the event, we saw a number of alien phenomena in the sky, including a bright, luminous craft that flew in over the mountains to the northwest of us, appearing like a science fiction spacecraft coming out of hyperspace or warp speed. Although none of us were quick enough to catch the occurrence on video, one of us did manage to record the audio of our group's reaction to the craft.
Look at that there. 6 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
Right there. Where? Hello.
Hello.
Yes. That was amazing.
Okay, so as I said, I go out into the desert. I go out into the desert all around the country, all around the world, into the wilderness to try to connect with these beings. And you can have, even if you have your camera in your hand, something can appear in the sky for just a second or two behind you, and you turn around and you try and record and you don't quite get it. But sometimes you manage to get the audio in there, and that's what I got then. And what we saw when you were listening to that audio was it was literally like a Millennium Falcon or a Enterprise D coming out of hyperspace or warp speed into the atmosphere, shooting in and slowing down and stopping and moving along a bit before disappearing out of view. And I am a space scientist, and I do know the difference between a a meteor and a planet and a satellite. So I can tell you it was none of those things. I've got a lot of videos to show you, a lot of evidence, so I'm going to just keep playing them. Naomi has children who are also psychically perceptive, and when Naomi took them on a hike one time out there in the desert, one of her children saw tall whites out there beckoning her and them, you need to come out further this way, come out further into the desert, basically. And when she relayed that to me, that we interpreted as they're inviting us to go out further to where they are. So this summer, when we went out there, we drove for a long time, wasn't it, Naomi? Did you enjoy that drive?
Yeah.
That was not the answer I was expecting.
Next time, helicopter, please.
Huh?
Helicopter would be nice next time.
Next time we'll use a helicopter. Okay. It was something like a 3 or 4 hour drive. It wasn't supposed to be quite that long, but we had vehicles that couldn't handle the drive because the tracks were not very good, and then one of them had a flat tire, and we started off with 9 vehicles and ended up with 4 that made it. Basically, we went to the edge of the area, the area of land which is owned by the military, and we were camped out at the face of a valley, at the mouth of a valley, and on the other side of the valley, that's where the tall white beings are known to live. And when we were out there, Naomi had a couple of experiences. Would you like to describe the experience where when we were meditating, remote viewing, you saw the being?
I only saw the face. It's huge forehead. It's like wearing like a helmet of kind. And the very small eyes. It's just so cute. And then I noticed there are 3 or 4 like a sapphire kind of very deep blue stuff on the forehead. And also I noticed that skin was kind of translucent to me. You can see through, but feels like it's like shadowish and growing from the inside. So I thought that is pretty. I didn't feel scared.
So the fact that it had the small eyes, that's consistent with tall whites, because tall whites are very humanoid when they are seen. They look like humans when they're seen physically. What you're describing, it fits with them being tall whites, but it also fits with you perceiving their extra-dimensional selves or their spiritual bodies. Okay, so I'm just going to point out 2 or 3 things about what we've seen now. We have 3 people, 3 humans, where when they were children or their children, tall whites have shown an interest in them. There was Misty, who was taken out as a child into the desert with her sister to look for tall white children. There was Mercedes, who as a child with her sister used to play with tall white children physically out there where she lived on Creech Air Force Base. And then you've got Naomi, whose children saw the tall whites in the desert in the location where I used to take them out to do contact events, and they saw the tall whites beckoning them. So there is this element to the tall whites feeling a connection with children. And I wonder why is that? I suspect it has a lot to do with children having more malleable brains. They're more open to new ideas, new experiences. They don't prejudge people in or beings in the same way that a lot of adults do. So we went out there camping, and we were invited. We were invited to go out there camping in the desert by the tall whites. So we went out there and we meditated and we started to see them. And then this happened. So after I'd finished doing the meditation, then we started talking to these beings, asking them, hey, can you come? Can you show yourselves to us? And this guy, Ed, who had never before done anything like this, I think he said he started to feel like a pressure in his forehead, or he started to feel like words were coming out of him, and he started to channel. He started to talk on behalf of one of the tall whites. Ed, do you sense anything?
Yeah. Can't open my eyes and keep closing them. And I feel like they pulled my soul. Can't tell
You feel like they pulled your soul?
Yeah. I can't open my eyes.
You can't open your eyes?
No.
Do you feel comfortable?
Yeah. Pressure in my brow.
Do you think they can hear my words?
Yes.
Do you think if I were to ask them questions, they could answer those questions through you?
Yes.
And we had a conversation for about 5 minutes. We would really like to start a friendship with you if you're open to that. Is that something you're open to starting a friendship with us?
Okay.
Thank you. Can everybody in this group just radiate thanks and love to these beings that are here? And in that conversation, it was fairly slow. We didn't get a lot of information. What we did get is that the tall white who was communicating with us had a human name, in the same way that Range 4 Harry had a human name, or an Earth name, not a human name, an Earth name of Harry. This tall white being had an Earth name of George.
My name is George. Earth name.
Okay, so we started talking to these beings, and one thing that I want to pull out of what you've just seen is when somebody in your group starts to act like they're not in full control of their body or their mind or their thoughts or their voice, and they say that they feel like something has pulled their soul, what do you do with that? Is that a dark situation, or is it something friendly trying to communicate? And so what you heard me do then is ask Ed, well, are you okay? Are you comfortable? And he said, yes. And I looked at the possibilities, because a lot of people always look with fear. They always look with hatred, and they would have thought something's trying to possess that man, maybe a demon or something. But what I did is I tried to imagine, well, what could be happening here? The tall whites are trying to communicate with us. And so I asked that question, well, do you think that we could talk to these beings? And Ed said yes. And we ended up having a very constructive conversation with these beings where we actually talked to them. And I'm going to play a little bit more of that conversation now. And it's interesting that they're picking these very basic Earth names, and they tend to be, they're both names, I think, that people used a few decades ago more, probably, and that makes me think that maybe these beings are older or have a longer lifespan. That, I don't know, I'm just like theorizing here. But we connected with George, and we went around and we introduced ourselves. And what's interesting is that as we were going around, George was saying things about each person, and some of the things that George was saying are things that these people said nobody else in this group could know that. For example, when we got to Elizabeth, who we call Liz, George was addressing her as Lizzie.
Hello, George, I'm Liz.
And afterwards, she said, that's interesting because that's what I used to be called when I was younger, and that it was calling me Lizzie, that was interesting to her. It was like some kind of confirmation. You told us that your Earth name is George. Do you have a name that you use among your people, your species?
Yeah.
Is it a name that you can tell us?
No. Understand? No.
Okay. Can you tell us, are you here with close to this group just spiritually?
Spiritually.
Where are your biological bodies?
Here.
Are you under the ground or in the mountains?
No. Yes.
You're in the mountains.
Yeah.
George, is it you that Naomi has seen with the 3 or 4 sapphires or blue stones in your forehead?
Yeah.
And after a very fun evening communicating with these tall white beings, we started to go to sleep. We got there very late, as it was, because we had it's 3 or 4 hour journey out there into the desert, and we had flat tires to deal with. But we eventually got to sleep, and then some unusual things happened in the night. At nighttime, it was very hot out there, and you felt that you didn't need a tent, so you slept out there just in your sleeping bag in the open. Can you explain what experiences you had in the night?
So I was sleeping outside next to Liz, and I hear footsteps just right here. So I'm like, who is walking there? And I looked at Liz, and she is kind of sleeping already. So I looked around, and I don't see anything. Somehow I didn't feel any scared and feeling anything. So I went back on the lay down, and within like 15 seconds, I started to hear again. Really, people, somebody's walking. I can hear the little rocks, moving and real stepping. So I looked up over there, and Kevin was over there. He said he's not gonna sleep or something. I just sit on the chair, and I saw a light over there. So no, it's not Kevin. There's no way, Kevin. And I can see the light is kind of moving. So he's up, but not him.
So I slept out in the circle because I rode with somebody else, and the weather was great. So, I think I probably slept out there for like 2-3 hours. And as I fell asleep, I woke up to almost like footsteps around the circle. I don't think it was that close, but I heard some footsteps. And I woke up, I had a flashlight, I shined it around to check, and I didn't see anything, but it was loud enough to wake me up from my deep sleep. So that was very interesting.
So I went back, and I hear again. And I didn't know at the time why I didn't think that it might be a tall white walking around among us. So that's after the fact. Next morning, I realized it might be a tall white actually walking, but I didn't see anything.
Okay.
So it was very, very strange.
Can you recall, Naomi, the experiences of the other people? Didn't a couple of other people email you afterwards and let you know that they thought they had experienced that they'd perceived tall whites at the base of the mountain or something like that?
Oh yes. One lady actually texted me that when we are gathering at the a meditation place, she saw some beings at the foot of the mountain, like across from us or something. And she wrote that she's shy, so she didn't say anything.
So at this point, I do want to just let people know there's some really cool music going on in the background in some of these video clips. And the composer and performer, producer of those music clips is Raphael Lugo. I just want to shout him out and say thank you to him. And I was videoing at that event that we went to. And it wasn't until I got home that I discovered I'd videoed something pretty cool. Our camping experience with tall whites was the extraordinary culmination of 3 years of research, contact events, remote communications, diplomacy, and determination. For the attendees, it was a beautiful shared experience with 16 peaceful, loving humans and an exhilarating adventure with an advanced non-human species. It wasn't until I had returned home and looked at the night vision video footage from the event that I discovered this. In between meditations, while scanning the horizon with my night vision camera, something appeared in the sky above the mountains and flew down behind them. Could this be a simple lens flare? No. Not if it was the only anomaly that appeared in the many times that I scanned this area of the desert. And lens flares don't disappear behind mountains. Could it have been a meteor or a shooting star? As a space scientist who's seen many thousands of meteors in my lifetime, I don't think so. Unlike meteors, it seems to have luminous wisps of something coming off it sideways. Although it's impossible to prove conclusively, I think that this is a trans-dimensional, tall white vessel entering the sky above the mountain and flying down behind it or into it. So, when I hosted another contact event close to Las Vegas the following year, I held this image in my mind and telepathically asked the tall whites to appear again in the same way. And, just a few seconds later, they did. The large, bright object at the top of this video is the moon. The light that comes in from the bottom of the screen is a lens flare caused by the scattering of moonlight through the video camera's optics. And the object that flies down behind the mountain is, in my opinion, another tall white vessel, responding to my telepathic communications by mirroring the appearance of the vessel that I videoed the previous year. So yeah, people ask me for evidence. There's evidence. I am not, as I said at the start of this podcast today, I am not somebody that just sits in my home in front of a camera and talks. I go out and I try to discover things for myself. That's the only way that you can ever gain knowledge, is to discover things for yourself.
Look at that there. 6 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
Hello.
Hello.
One of the regular attendees of my Las Vegas events had just returned home from doing a contact meditation in the desert. He looked up into the sky and tried one more time to connect with the tall whites.
I was here thanking them. I was just trying to send my thoughts out, thanking them, and that's when I decided to meditate a little in my head. That is when lights started appearing right here in this part of the sky. Talking about little lights that would pop out, shine, play with each other.
And to his astonishment, a gigantic mothercraft appeared above his house.
It appeared over the house, and it was right here, right in this position. From like far over here, straight right there. At an angle like that, and just right there.
He rushed into the house to get his mother, who came outside just in time to see the alien vessel flying away. A similar craft appeared to him a second time when he went into the desert to meditate with his father. Some of my psychic friends feel that they have encountered tall white aliens walking around Las Vegas disguised as humans.
And I've also seen a tall white in town. I stood right in front of him in Trader Joe's one time. And I didn't know what a tall white was at the time. He was really tall and thin and like a very unusual looking, very like the light blonde hair and everything. I found out those were their characteristics later on. But I have a tendency to be able to see through people's disguises really fast. And so I think I was seeing him and nobody else could. And so I started talking to him in my head. And I'm like, you're like a walking antenna, aren't you? And I was just like sort of chatting at him and being friendly and everything. And he turned right around and looked, because I was right behind him, and he looked right at me. And he got really scared. And then he checked out really fast and was nervous and dropping his pen and just disappeared right away. It was like weird. So, I mean, I can't prove anything, but I'm pretty sure that was a tall white.
How tall was he?
Oh, gosh, he must have been about, like, at least 6'5", very tall. He could have been taller than that even, but I think it was 6'5".
And before I go any further, I would just like to thank Raf, Benno, and CND Boy for your positive comments. I appreciate that. I am going to continue with my my tall white investigations. In 2024, while I was talking to a group of contact event attendees in the desert, a bright, tall white vessel slowly appeared in the sky behind me, as though emerging out of higher dimensional space. I turned around to see it growing larger and brighter, and then slowly getting smaller and dimmer until it faded away completely. Although I didn't manage to turn on my video camera quickly enough to record it, the attendees' reaction in the following seconds offers some indication of just how amazing the experience was.
Fantastic!
It was bright, and it just like
it kind of lit up. It did just kind of wiggle. Yeah, it did. It was moving. It was moving, and it lit up.
That was not a shooting star. That was not.
It didn't continue over us or anything yet.
That was not an airplane. That was not a satellite.
Wow, that was amazing. Good eye. Danny, oh my God.
It was like a shooting star, but then it like stayed there for a second.
Wow, then it got bright.
Yeah.
Really bright.
Wow. That top story.
Well, well, that's good. We've been successful already.
Maybe they're thanking us for believing in them, you know?
So what? Now I'm curious as to what you were about to, what story, like what? Yeah, right. Because like they showed up to hear what you had to say.
And that's the big question. Why are tall white vessels showing up at my events? What is it that I say at my events that causes them to take notice? Why have tall whites chosen to become friends with me? The answer is very simple. Peace is my highest priority. To the extent that it's practically possible, I try to do no harm to anyone. I have a vision of universal peace, universal love, and universal well-being. I care about all conscious life forms unconditionally, without judgment or negative discrimination. And tall whites like that, and they support that. So I have formed a friendship with these beings. I formed a relationship with these beings. And, you know, a lot of people think of aliens just in the physical form, flying around in physical craft, standing in front of you physically. But I connect with them a lot, spiritually, astrally, in meditations, in astral projections, in remote communications. And psychic people, when they're in my presence, they will often see beings around me and sometimes tall whites. So I would describe you as a psychic who is able to tune into spiritual and ultra-dimensional realms and energies and beings, including human spirits and including non-human entities. Is that correct?
That's the perfect way to describe it, and I don't know of any other way to describe it.
So
yeah.
when beings come to you, when alien beings come to you, it's a very strong and real experience for you.
Yes.
Could you describe what happened when you first met me in person?
First of all, I was a nervous wreck. I was excited like a little girl, you know. I get to meet you in person for the first time. So come on, man. It was great because we've been having great times. And I went around the corner and I met, as I'm looking at the doorwell, going around the corner, and you're standing there and it's like, you know, and I could feel this energy flowing like all around me. When I held you and hugged you, it was like this immense amount of energy. And when I backed off, immediately I saw a reptilian, an Eben, and the tall white. He was 9 feet tall. He was very stoic, mannered, you know, very quiet. But the feeling you did not get from him, you didn't get fear. You didn't get the feeling, stay away. You were like, it was a loving presence, but we're not going to have face-to-face conversation right now. Okay. And he literally sort of hung back from the other two beings that were there that was like, let's do this. They were very joyful and happy to be there. And he walked down the hall and stood in the hallway. And I remember one point when you asked me, where do you see them? And I said, he's right down the hall. And you got up and you went down the hall. Hey, and I'm like, well, he's leaving now. He's going in the other direction. But he was still presently in the home, and you can feel that presence. It was just all around, very, very loving, very, very kind. The long blonde hair, the same type of suit. And
she's mid-sentence here. Let's pick that up from where she left off.
Their vibration, his vibration, okay, it's really high. The vibration is really, really high, and it is extremely intimidating. And I don't mean that in a negative way. If you are not used to it, you're kicked in with that hormone, the fight or flight hormone that just kicked in because there's energy around you and you're not, where is it coming from? What is it? Well, it's his energy, and it is like boom, 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 boom. If you're not prepared for that, you literally will actually put up blocks. You may not be able to communicate. This is just things I see for myself. Okay. You won't be able to communicate. I need you to be relaxed, because the more and more we engage with one another, the less you're going to have that fight or flight mode happen.
Now, this tall white being came into that house with me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Why do you think the tall white and the reptilian and the Eben were coming into the house with me?
You were on tour, and you were you're on this huge tour. Peace, love, universal love. You know, it's just even when you say it, for some folks, it's like comment with, you know, but for them, it's so in the heart. It is what they desire for us, and it is a goal, because the future is we're all together. That's the future. I actually can see that happening. I really do. And they were there for support, and they were also your protection team. That's the best way to put it, your protection team.
So I actually have a couple more videos that I would like to show with more evidence about tall whites, but I'm not going to have time to play them today, so I will play them next week instead. But I think there's some very important messages that have come through in today's podcast. And I'm hoping that the people listening to this show will understand them. These beings that are out there, these tall white beings, they do support peaceful, loving, friendly relationships, contact, communications with them. They support in a way that they will actually come to you. They come to me and they support me. They protect me while I'm touring around, because here I am giving a message that these beings we can live in peace with. And they like that. And I host online meetings all the time where we connect with beings like this. I know 10, 15 different species that I've formed friendships like this with. And I go on tours. And I invite you to join me. I invite you to come to my online meetings, to come to my in-person events. If you're interested in getting involved with what I do, which is real research, it's real investigations, it's real contact, both online or spiritually and in person, then please join the group there that you see on the screen. There is a free membership option, but in order to support what I do, I'm hoping that some people might join tier 1 or tier 2 of that group. I am going to continue to tell you about my investigations next week, where we talk about what happened where we astrally projected to Area 51 and to the Galactic Mothercraft. Thank you very much for watching this show. I wish you all peace, love, and well-being.